Good night, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, thank you to all for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, as the love and support everyone shares and sends my way. From the heart, thank you. Also, do please like, share, subscribe, and hype the video to help the message get out a little bit more. Thank you. Well, everyone, getting right into what I want to touch on today. Today, I want to do something a little bit different, right? I want to answer some questions that I've been asked quite a lot, actually, that I haven't touched on them really, and for personal reasons, right? But nevertheless, I do, in a sense, touch on them, right? Which is one, how was it in my times growing up in town being a sureño? How I became a sureño being from Northern California. And have I ever been asked or have I ever thought, of us being from up north wearing red or why we can't? And basically, I want to touch on them, you know. So to start off, how it was for me as a child, right? Yeah, when I was young, you could say me growing up in a northern neighborhood, right? South Park. I was born on Grand Avenue and raised there pretty much my whole life, you could say, or my childhood. But you could grow up anywhere, but it's I guess it comes back to what everyone says when you join a gang, right? So we're looking for acceptance or where we fit in. Me growing up in South Park, not gonna say I didn't complete or made friendships. I did, but I didn't fit in. I don't know if I'm making sense. There's a lot of natives, right? I grew up with, you know, there weren't too many raza around, and I had family across town and on West Ninth, Northwest, Santa Rosa. And to be sincere, whenever I went out there, I fit in a lot better, more, right? Cause well, different estilos to say the least, and that was part of it. Also, me trying to understand things or trying to get him into lineup in me. Like for example, going back and forth to Culiacan and Santa Rosa, and it was difficult for me to know where I was at and in different, not act same way I would act in a different way, in a different spot, different ways, And I had learned that at a young age. But I went from my Matanza school being expelled from Brook Hill, from Chepper, Doyle, Doyle Park. I ended up finishing there and going to junior high, and within the first 2 weeks, I got expelled from all Sonoma counties, middle schools, right? And by then, I was already gang banging from my neighborhood, and it's what caused basically my jefita to sell her home and us moving to Papago. That's originally where our first stronghold was, right? But taking you back a little bit, definitely what had me decide to game bang was the death of a family member, Luisillo, that just for being a sureño. And again, he would always go across town, right? Cause even though I'm from the first generation, I was the youngest. I had older homies. For example, Flaco, who was older than me, Jerucho, Chopa, Toro. There was quite a few that were there older than me. Same generation, just different age gaps, right? So again, when Lucio got killed, I started. That's where I'll be at 24/7, right on West 9th, and it wasn't nothing rare. Rare. I wasn't the only one that we were homegrown that grew up amongst norteños. For example, I could go off. I knew some that were already in that stage of flamed up and throwing up a norteño's neighborhood. That would eventually become from a neighborhood. First generation of a neighborhood to be exact. But that's their story, and I'm not here to tell it, right? Or I'm not that one to tell it. But anyways, when the killer see you again, I started kicking it there more, and when my jefa sold our house, we moved to Papo, right underneath the stairs, where later on they would end up killing my homeboy also on, right? And it was hard because Papo was us. There was a lot of raza, right? I could name a whole bunch of us that started it, like Pollo, Flaco, Jerucho, Loro, Toro. Well, you know, Discipulo, a whole bunch of us. I wasn't the only one, right? But we pushed. We pushed up until the point where we would eventually start, claiming Apple Valley and Papo as a neighborhood. Nothing but the neighborhood. West 9 again was more like a Unión de Barrio type of things, right? There was us, there was VL, and then there was LF, that we would all hang out there. It wasn't just us. Our first neighborhood alone was Apple Valley and Papago, or Papago, should I say. And it just became hate. After a while, it was just, I seen with my own eyes what got done to Speedy Luisillo, and it was it was boogie time, right? Every chance I got, and started going in and out of jail, and it picked up on its own, like a tornado. And I was real hated by South Park. To be sincere, those that I claimed as friends, they became my worst enemies at one point. The only thing is, I grew up in South Park, so I knew how to go over there and hoop bang on them, right? And get away with it because I knew all the alley streets and act. But that's not important, but that's what it would end up getting me in trouble a lot, right? And but seeing them kill Luisillo, that's basically what pushed me over the edge to start game banging. And of course, I went where I feel more comfortable at, right? Which was with, with the camaradas for the neighborhood, or that we started the neighborhood, you know. And I know it might not sound right to sub, but again, we're looking for. I'm not gonna say acceptance. We're looking to fit in, right? But anyways, getting to the second question, how hard was it for me to, or us, in the late '80s, early '90s, right? Being a sureño, I'm just gonna put it to you like this: we took more L's than wins, right? For a long time. I remember it was real difficult, claiming the hood and being from the town because everywhere we went, we were outnumbered. But we pushed. I guess it's like any neighborhood, right? That starts and there's older neighborhoods there. You have to push, push. They did it to us. We went and it was back and forth. And it didn't help that Apple Valley and Papo was surrounded by Indian village, which was all norteños. And later on, they became where PLU hanged out, which were my hood's worst enemies. And but yeah, it was difficult. You know, one way to describe it is like you're in prison and there's 15 of you on the yard and there's hundreds of them, right? You just gotta buck up and boogie, right? But on another note, getting into that I ever was asked or thought of wearing red in town, right? And no, on a personal tip, even before game banging, just the color red is not real attractive to me. It has nothing to do with game banging. That's one. Uh, but two is like, for example, I had a homie that he was different generation, right? He he hanged out tough with a homie that's doing a grip of time that I respect a lot, right? And he asked me one time, hey Chino, why can't we wear red? Because we're from up north, and this and or could they wear red? Should I say it like that? And I answered the way it's supposed to be, for us from up north, and it's hell no. We can't wear red. I understand the whole you're not up north type of thing down south, but the metaphor I used with them is like when we're in prison. In my case, there was a few times I would end up in places where it would just be me and my celly in the hole with nothing but norteños, right? And we still programmed though. We came out to yard, we worked out, did our rutina, showers, everything. We let our presence be known fully. We did our program like there was a whole ranfla of sureños there, right? That's what I use with the homies. The one thing that sets us apart, that differentiates us up north, is not wearing red. That's how we show our presence. That's why it's not the same, because they compare like down south, up north. It's not the same. It will never be the same. It's like telling excuse me, norteños to wear blue. I know from jeans and that they can't escape, but other than that, they ain't gonna be sporting it, right? And it's because they're gonna hold their presence. That's the best way I could describe it. I had this conversation with this homie, and I heard he was about it for a while, and then I heard he went sideways on the camarada that's busted, so he went no good. And it's because of those thoughts. You allow them thoughts to start invading your head as you're questioning what you're doing, where you're from. And I say it from town. Now, a lot of people ask me, what do I think about the new generation, for example, in my town, since I don't really speak about my town, right? I think it's their turn, to hold the neighborhood to their liking. For a long time, I consider every single one of my friend. not just my homeboys, right? From young to old, and they know. I had a lot of homeboys that tell me, "Oh, we need an older homie like you here, or you're an older homie, my respects." And I told them none of that. New generation, old generation, we're the same. Period. Point blank. Don't allow no cat to tell you that. And I threw a couple homies from my era or age on me for guiding camaradas that way, but that's facts. Respect is earned. But basically, my respects to the new generation. I was there. I put in. I didn't want the start to be forgotten because most of the ones that we started the neighborhood, they're either gone one way or another, and we had a lot of losses, right, for our start to be forgotten or for different guidelines to be set for the neighborhood. But again, it became a point where I had no choice but to step back and allow the new generation to do their thing. I tried, but with my current health situation, I have a homie I still consider a friend, and TJ. Right when I was up on the ranch with Daryl and then taking care, I was trying to do things with him in the sense of having him start on his own. His own walk with the homies because they were from the same age era. But just a lot of things got in the middle. One was law out here, government, and doing time, and then the sickness, right? And basically, people tell me, do I view my neighborhood the same? Always. I would always love and respect my neighborhood. My homies, you know, they could think of me whatever, however, but it's part of, it's part of stepping aside, stepping back, right? Is understanding where your foot is at, and mine is at the stage where all I could do is wish and pray for them all. I'm sick. I'm on my way out the door, so there was no sense for me to maintain there and basically bring more confusion to the neighborhood. I trust again and love what's there, and again, if I'm in touch with homies from my city, from my neighborhood, do please excuse me, but I know what I'm doing and touching on, and I will. You guys know I carry my own cross. Something is to fall on somebody, it's gonna fall on me alone, and I'll leave that. But anyways, on this one, I just wanted to touch on some key points of how my growing up was. I hope I made sense. It's like almost 4 in the morning, and I got chemo in a couple hours. But I do want to get started on touching up on my growing up because I want to circle around, and of course, I know not everybody wants to hear about my growing ups or my town, but for those that do, I'm real high on respect. I want to respect it. I want to touch on it. I hope everybody understands. And with this, I left some videos pre-recorded. I hope they're to your liking. I will be back with new stuff or not pre-recorded stuff Wednesday, hopefully, as in lives. So with this, I hope everybody maintains with family, bless, under God's best love and care. Please stay true to yourself and loyal to your loved ones. Buenas noches.
This shit went off. Come on, this is so we started. We always